Hello everyone, Patricia here. Today I thought I would do a little video about why I prefer to read in English instead of Danish. Now, as some of you may know, I live in Denmark. I'm from Denmark, so obviously I speak Danish. And it might seem a little bit weird to some people that I prefer to read in English if I speak Danish just as fluently. Probably more fluently. So, I thought I would do a little video on it because to some people it might be interesting, and I thought I would just share this little story. So let's get on with the video. First off, I thought I would share the few books that I own that are in Danish. The list is very short, therefore I thought I would still include it. And also I thought it would be fun to say the names of the different books in Danish because it's interesting to hear what books are called in different languages in my opinion. So I thought I would share that with you guys. So first off, we have the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. As you can see up here, I have it both in English and in Danish. The first one is called Harry Potter og De Vises Sten. The second one is called Harry Potter og Hemmelighedernes Kammer. The third one is called Harry Potter og Fangen fra Azkaban. The fourth one is called Harry Potter og Flammernes Pokal. The fifth one is called Harry Potter og Fønixorden. The sixth one is called Harry Potter og Halvblodsprinsen. And the seventh one I don't own in Danish, but it's called Harry Potter og Dødslegatien. So I thought I would share the names of those because I thought it would be interesting to hear them in Danish because you know the English titles. And the list is still very short, so I'm still going to go over the rest of them with you guys of the books that I have in Danish. Next up we have the Thoroughbred series, which is called Fuldblod in Danish. And I'm not going to go over the names of these because not very many people know that series, and if they do, it's not as interesting in my opinion as the rest of them. But I have the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the 8th, and the 10th one in Danish. And the rest I borrowed from the library when I read them. The next one I want to share with you is Den Første by Justin Cronin, which I also have in English called The Passage. As you can tell, these are pretty freaking huge books. And the only reason I have it in Danish is because my dad, he was doing some kind of review of it for some kind of work, and he gave it to me afterwards because he thought I might like it. And I haven't read it yet, and then I found it in English in a secondhand bookstore, and that's why I got that. And the last few books that I own that are in Danish, of the ones that I can find in my room anyways, I have 4 of the Afdeling Q books by Jussi Olsen. And he is a Danish author, so he's the only Danish author I think I have on my bookshelf at all. I have a few school books that are Danish too, but I'm not counting those in. The first one is called Kvinden i Buret. I don't have that in book form, I have it on my phone because I bought it quickly for school because I had to read it for school and I turned out to like it. The second one is called Fasandræberne, but I don't know where I put that. So I can't show you the book form just yet. I will probably show you in the future. The third one in that series is called Flaskepost for P. And I found this in a secondhand bookstore, so I got this one too. And then finally we have the fourth one in that series called Journal 64. As you can tell, my bookshelf is pretty big, and those are the only Danish books that I own. Or it's not pretty big, but I still have quite a few books considering how few I had just a few years ago. And in my opinion, it's still a pretty good collection. It's gonna keep growing, obviously. But I don't have that many Danish books, and the reason for that is that I prefer to read in English. And now I'm officially going to get into that. I just thought I would share the few Danish books I own because it seemed fitting. So now I'm gonna go into quickly how I came about to learn English. I know it's a little bit late to bring that into this whole thing before getting to the actual point of the video, but I mean, I figured it's fitting still to explain how I learned it because English isn't a main language here in Denmark. So when I was in school, before university, before high school, you learned English in the 3rd grade. That's when you started having lessons alongside having Danish and alongside other things. Obviously. And they have since then changed the rules so you start having English lessons from the 1st grade instead of the 3rd, just so you have a bit of extra time because some people really struggle with learning it because it's very different from Danish, as you could maybe tell by me reading some of the titles of the books. It is kind of difficult for us to learn English because we pronounce words so differently. There are a lot of words that I can't pronounce as easily. I struggle a lot with a few words. I can't give an example right now, but There are some words that are just kind of a struggle for me to pronounce because they're so different, and the sounds you make in the two different languages are very different. But after having had English for 1 year in the 3rd grade, my family and I moved to America for a year. So I lived in America from I was 10 to I was 11. And I started learning English when I was 9, I believe. And I had a few English lessons before we moved because I could only really say what my name was, where I lived, and my age. I didn't know English at all when I started having extra lessons on top of school. And then we moved and I learned the majority of the English that I know when I lived there by watching TV and having extra English lessons when the others had Spanish lessons. And it was actually pretty great, and now I just love speaking English. And when I came back, obviously, I really wanted to experiment more with the language because I just learned a new language. I might as well use it instead of just keep going back and maybe forgetting some of my English because I didn't keep up with it. So before I moved to America, I had read the Harry Potter series in Danish, and my dad had read it for me while growing up. And after coming back, I still read them in Danish until the 8th grade, where I purchased them in English, and I never looked back. And the only series I can recall reading in Danish after coming back from America was the Thoroughbred series that I just showed you, or Fuldblod in Danish. I don't recall reading any other books in Danish unless they were for school, for class, anything like that. Otherwise, I pretty much stuck to the English. And the reason for that is I just prefer the way it's written. Danish, obviously the book is written originally in Danish. I want to read it in Danish. Like, I can't imagine reading those Jussi Olsen books in English. It would seem weird for me because I like to try to read a book in its original language unless I don't know that one. And I have no way of like knowing anything that's going on. So otherwise I prefer to read in the original language. And a lot of the books that I have read through the years where I read them in Danish where they were originally in English, I just felt like it was weird. Something was off in my opinion. Everybody doesn't have to feel that way, but I just didn't like it, I guess. It seemed weird, and also the way that things are translated, because Danish is so different from English in the way we phrase things, in the way we say things, in the way that we write things, and the words we use. Like sometimes a really long English sentence can be really short in Danish and the other way around. So the translations just don't really fit every single time. Sometimes they're really lucky and they get it perfect, but I haven't been lucky enough to find those. As I said, I have Justin Cronin's Den Første, which I own in English and in Danish. I tried reading it in Danish and it just felt weird. So I waited and I kept saying I'm gonna buy it in English and then I'm gonna read it. I haven't read it yet though. But now I have it in English and I'm gonna read that. So I guess basically to actually get to the point of this video, which has taken a while now, I'm sorry, is that it's just the phrasing is a lot better in my opinion. Obviously it depends on if the book was originally written in Danish or English, but if it's originally in English, I just prefer the phrasing. The vocabulary sounds better. There are just some words that are just better. I even speak more English in my everyday than I speak Danish. I write more in English than in Danish. Like I prefer it. I really prefer it. It just sounds better in my opinion. It's more smooth. Obviously not every single time, but most of the time. I just feel it's a better fit for the stories, and I feel like a story could come across a lot better in English than in Danish. And obviously there will be Danes out there that hate reading in English, and I get that. But because I know English so well now, I just prefer it a lot more. And yeah. So I don't really know how to conclude this video. I guess I just prefer the vocabulary, the smoothness in most of the cases, the way things are phrased. I just think it fits better for a lot of stories that it's in English than in Danish, especially if it's translated. Translations aren't always bad. Don't get me wrong here. For example, the names of a lot of characters in the Harry Potter books, they are translated because it just fits better to translate them. For example, Gilderoy Lockhart is called Glitterik Smørhår, which the first part of the name can't really be translated. I guess it's just a more Danish way of saying Gilderoy. But then it's also because it's a bit harder to say. I guess it just doesn't fit into the Danish language the same way. But Smørhår, which is his last name, literally means butter hair. And it seems so weird when you're reading that, but it fits so much better into the language somehow. And it just fits the character too. And it might seem really weird for you guys, but because I also grew up with it, I find it more normal. I feel like it's a hit and miss. Translations can be good and bad, and most of the time I just find them bad. Not everybody else does, but I do. The phrasing is better, the vocabulary is better, the smoothness is there, a story comes across a lot better. I just prefer English to Danish. So that was a bit of a ramble, but I hope you really enjoyed this video. I hope I came across with a good point here towards the end somehow, and I hope you still enjoyed it. And I really hope that you will leave a comment down below saying what language you prefer to read books in, where you're from, if they fit together, and if they don't. For example, that I'm Danish and I prefer English over Danish. And I really hope you'll give this little video a like, and you will subscribe for more videos in the future. I have planned a bunch of videos ahead that I think will fit into this channel really well, and so far they're all about books. So I really hope that you will come back and watch the videos and you'll subscribe so you will be notified when I post a video next time. So I will see you soon with another video. Bye!